Well, my parents are actually Scottish. My mum's passed away now, but yeah, I mean, my mum and dad were Scottish. They migrated to Australia. They were £10 tourists, and then while they lived in Australia, they had myself and my sister. So that's why. Yeah, that's how we came about. I mean, they were £10 tourists, migrant family, and then my grandmother was ill, and my mum said, "Look, we've got to go home and see my grandmother." And then unfortunately, when we were there, she died. And my mum says, "Well, she came from a big family. I was a big family of 10 of them. I don't know how you can have 10, but yeah, there was 10." And they stayed. My dad was a bit heartbroken that he couldn't go back to Australia because he really enjoys Australia. And we stayed there. I was educated, believe it or not. I went to school. I went through the education system. And my sister and I were both speak with this kind of accent now, which is a bit of mixture.
Yeah.
And then when I became 20, I ended up going back to living in Australia. And then several years after that, my sister followed with her family, and she's got a little girl, and she was like broad Scottish accent when she went to Australia, and now you would not even recognise that she'd ever lived there because she's like transformed her accent into like being a dinky die Aussie, and yeah, so they live there. My sister lives there, and her husband and her daughter, so they live there. But my dad still lives in Scotland, so I spend a lot of my time now in Scotland with my dad. In regards to if I've got any time or anything, I just go and live there with him. And yeah, he's a mad bowls player. He plays lawn bowls, and I go to the indoor bowls with him, and I go to the outdoor bowls with him. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and the Australian bit and the Scottish bit.
So being an Australian and Scottish, you must also follow cricket. Maybe you played some cricket.
Well, look, I played cricket when I was at the school,
Mm-hmm.
and I was, believe it or not, I was okay. I was quite talented at cricket, and we actually used to get off school early. That's probably why I played cricket, so I could get out of school, because school and I didn't mix. We were not the best. And I remember we played in the cup final for the cricket, and we won. And that was like on a Wednesday. And on the Saturday, this gentleman came round knocking at my door, and they says, "Oh, look, how are you, Ian?" I says, "I'm very well, thanks. How are you?" I was quite polite. He says, I'm Mr. Howie." I went, "Oh yeah, Mr. Howie, I know who you are and that, because you live just down the road." He says, "Would you like to come and play for Manifield Cricket?" And I was just no other answer but no. I said, and he was quite devastated because I'd just give an answer straight away saying, "No, I'm not interested because I play football and I can't mix the football and the cricket." But yeah, cricket was a good sport when I went to school in the summer months, and it used to get me out of school early.
So you were a batsman or a bowler?
I was like 50-50. I was quite handy in the bat, and I was quite handy bowling as well. And I used to like the body line. I think that's how you would describe it, because I was quite an aggressive type child. And yeah, the cricket was good. I mean, I went to school with a couple of good cricketers, like Raymond Massey was good, David Mitchell was good. I remember with a wicket keeper, and he quite fancied himself as a wicket keeper, and his boy called Jimmer Noble. And yeah, we were quite handy for like a public school. I mean, I went to Powys, and Powys was never really known for its academics, but the cricket and the football, we were okay. We were quite handy.
So when you were playing cricket, was that the time you were also playing football?
Yeah, in the summer, we ended up just playing a little bit of cricket, just as a I suppose you would call it here, a co-curricular activity. And we just played it, and we played in a local school league, and we won it. We were quite handy. Yeah, we weren't too bad.
So how was the life in Australia? How is it different from the life in Scotland? Comparing it to the football culture.
Oh, look, I mean, football culture in Scotland, everything's about football.
Mhm.
I mean, everybody lives, breathes, sleeps football. The quality of the game, I'm not having a go really here about the Scottish game, but I think it hasn't moved forward as much as some of the other countries. Australia, it's like an outdoors kind of country. I mean, when I say outdoors, I mean everybody plays sport. I mean, you've got rugby league, rugby union, you've got Aussie rules, you've got football, which used to be called soccer,
Mhm.
and then you've with the ladies, you've got like netball,
Mm.
you've got t-ball, baseball. I mean, these are all sports that are like really quite prominent now in Australia, whereas in Scotland, it's not. It's probably all down to just the weather, because I mean, Scotland, it's like raining one day and it's just raining and raining the next. Whereas in Australia, you can go for days and weeks without rain, and you can pre-plan what you're really going to do there, whether you're going to go out where a gang is to have a barbecue, or go to the beach, or do whatever. It's a very outdoors country, Australia, and for me, it's really the best. It's a wonderful place.
So, as far I've seen your coaching, so we all make a perception of someone, right? So I was trying to make connect your dots from like how this guy started, how he got into coaching. So where did that come from? What kind of player were you in your days?
What kind of player was I in my days? Oh, look, I mean, I was fairly aggressive, and I was one that never needed any motivation to win. I mean, I hate losing. I like losing is just like not even in my. Yeah, it just doesn't exist. So I was always very, very competitive, and I mean, I remember one day in my school days, another co-curricular sport at the time was hockey,
Hmm.
and I remember getting sent off at hockey because I just wanted to win, and I'd do anything for the team to win, and that just continued all the way through my life, and like what you see me today, um, I just my teams have got to win. I just try and put as much effort and enthusiasm into winning as I possibly can, and I keep on saying to all the players, particularly the young ones, because the young ones you can really, really influence. And you say, look, the way you play is a reflection of the way you train. So if you're really competitive in training, it'll just be second nature that you're going to be competitive on game day. And if you want to win in training, yeah, again, it's the same thing. It's the same scenario that it'll just be a natural thing. It'll be part of your DNA then. And I mean, I remember with some of the kids that I grew up with, and some of them were like exceptional players and went on and played for Scotland and played in some of the high leagues in the UK. I mean, they were all exactly the same. I mean, football meant the world to some of these boys, and I just followed the same type of thought patterns.
What clubs did you play for, like in your days? Were they professional clubs or
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I used to be at Aberdeen,
Aberdeen?
right? So I never ever broke into the like the reserves or anything like that. But they were the ones that put me to playing in the Highland League.
Hmm.
So I just got a phone call one day. One of the boys' teams that I played for, they says, "Oh, they want you to go and play on the weekend." I says, "Have we got a game?" And he says, "No, we haven't got a game." Okay, well, I can go up and be a trialist. So I went up there and was a trialist, and they were the first ones that I went and played for. And then there was other teams, professional or semi-professional at the time, that they showed a lot of interest in me. But me being quite loyal, I just went with the first team that actually showed a lot of interest in me. And was it a good thing or a bad thing? Yeah, I think it possibly was, because I mean, I stick by my morals. I mean, even like with players, like just in this NSL competition, for instance, like Sanjit was a left fullback. That he wasn't really a left fullback, but we adjusted his game into to playing quite well there. And then we just stuck with him because he never did anything wrong. So that was like me. And then I went to Australia. I played for like lots of different teams in Australia, and then I ended up I got married, and then I got divorced, and then I went into coaching and got on all the coaching licenses that I was asked to do, and ended up getting involved in the A-League. And then after the A-League, then I ended up going to Malaysia. Then from Malaysia, I ended up going to the Philippines. The Philippines, I ended up going to Malaysia again. And then Malaysia, I ended up going to Indonesia. So, I mean, I floated around in football all my life. And has it been good to me? Yeah, I mean, it's a cruel game. I mean, football is really, really cruel. It costs you a lot in regards to relationships, I suppose. It puts a lot of pressure on family commitment, like in regards to like time away at training. I mean, people don't realise how much time coaching actually takes. I mean, as a player, it's far less time as a player. As a coach, you're on the phone all the time. People want to talk to you about this, that, and the next thing. You've got to go and meet people, meet sponsors, meet management. I mean, I've even had to go and see the King at one stage.
Where?
That was in Malaysia, because I was in Kedah, and there was a function, and I had to go to this function. And football's taken me all over the world, and if I'd never been involved in football, I would have never been in New Zealand. I would have never been in Australia. I would have never been in China, India, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Holland. I would have never ever been in all these places if it wasn't for football. So I've got to be thankful a little bit that I was involved in football. And it was funny, the other day, I met a Nepalese guy.
Okay.
And he said to me, he says, I'm from Dallas. And I says, oh, Dallas. I says, I know Dallas. He went, wow, you know Dallas? I says, yeah. I says, because I actually went and played in the Dallas Cup all those years ago.
You played there?
We played in Dallas. And he said, really? And then we just struck up this conversation about Dallas. And this has gone back a long time ago. I'm testing my brain here. And we got into this conversation and everything. And yeah, again, football's a great tool in regards to communicating with people. And he thought this was amazing that I'd been to Dallas, and we'd spoke about being in Fort Worth and Plano. And he says, wow, he says, so you know a little bit about. I says, yeah. So, I mean, football's been a great educational tool for me as well.
Wow. You just mentioned Aberdeen. That was the former club of Sir Alex Ferguson, right?
Yeah, I mean...
Shifted from there to Manchester United.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he just replicated Aberdeen and Manchester on a bigger scale. And it's funny, I was speaking to some of my friends the other day that are Dandy Don supporters. And Manchester United and Aberdeen are exactly the same. I mean, success that Alex Ferguson brought to Aberdeen will never be replicated again. And the success that Alex Ferguson took to Manchester United will never ever be replicated again. Expectations are high at Aberdeen. Expectations are high at Manchester United. But he was amazing as a manager and everything. I remember he used to have this brown Mercedes, and he used to go down, and it was always there. It was always sitting outside the stadium and everything. And I used to be amazed at the amount of time that he actually used to spend there. And we used to go down and train like a Tuesday night and a Thursday night, and he was always there. He was always like watching, and he was always he was very interactive in regards to his views and his opinions of young players. And if you watch any Alec Ferguson team, always had lots of young players in it.
True.
And he always give young players an opportunity. And he used to say, if you're good enough, son, you're old enough.
Wow.
And I always, when I started in the coaching and everything, I always used to think to myself, well, we used to have a coach, Bobby Clark. He coached in New Zealand and America, and Lenny Taylor at the time. And they were excellent coaches. They were before their time. They were doing all these clinics and programs within the school program. This is where I keep on saying to people that you've got to get into the schools and give the kids exposure to football at the school age, because a tree never grows from the top to the bottom.
True. Right?
You've got to nurture the flower or the tree, and you've got to water it, and then you'll bring it along, and that's when you're going to get some good young talent. And I always reflect back to them, and I that's where I get a lot of my inspiration, I suppose you would describe it, or my experiences, because I remember as a 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old, 16-year-old boy, and I mean, I was playing with some of the best kids in the country at that stage, and they were all handpicked by Sir Alex. He would take them up from Glasgow, and he'd take boys like Eric Black and Brian Gunn from the north of Scotland. He would take them from everywhere. He would pick them from underneath a stone, and he was amazing in regards to his identification of talent. He would know about everybody. He would know about what everybody was doing within the country, and all the best kids used to come to Aberdeen at the time. And unfortunately, they all couldn't play, and then he had to release some of them, and then they kicked on and played in other teams. But the Aberdeen team in that era in the 80s was like phenomenal, just like what Manchester United was in the 90s.
So, while your time at Aberdeen, was Sir Alex Ferguson the coach there?
Yeah, he was manager. So he was.
So you played under him?
Well, I was just one of the kids. So we were in this, like the schoolboys.
Oh, okay.
So we played in.
But he coached you?
Well, no, he didn't personally coach us. Right, so we used to go down in the summer or Easter holidays, right? And you used to be with like the reserves, and I was boys like Alan Lyons. There was one guy, Ian Angus, and Ian Angus used to have this. He used to have this trick that he would just like toe poke. He'd just like poke the ball away. He wouldn't tackle you. He'd just go in there, and then after training one day, I was as low as a snake's belly button, because he'd done it to me a couple of times. And Teddy Scott at the time says to me, he says, "Hey, Gillan, what's wrong with you?" I says, Ian Angus was poked it, made me look stupid a couple of... He says, "Hey," he says, "there's no shame in that. He's in the European Cup Winners' Cup squad. He's a quality player. You're just a young boy of 15. And he made me feel better then, because I just, like I said, I felt as low as a snake's belly button. But there was some great players. I mean, God bless him. One player that he's no longer with us was Neil Cooper. And he was just a couple of years older than myself. And he was like unbelievable. He was just like a superstar as a kid. And I always used to say, wow, look, he's so strong. He's so quick. He can strike a good ball. He's strong in the air, and he was just amazing. I just used to be in awe, because he was like the player in Scotland at that time. And there was another boy that played, was Paul McStay. He was at Celtic, and these two boys were like awesome players.
So they say that something you learn when you're growing up. Right, so the age you were at Aberdeen, that time you were looking up on Sir Alex Ferguson. So if we see in Lalitpur, we can see you giving chances to the youngsters more and more, like Aditya and Kushal. You gave them a platform. They performed well. They scored their goals. Right. So can we say that the philosophy you carry of giving opportunities to the youth has been brought down somewhere from Alex Ferguson to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been involved with some good people in my time, and some of these managers have had faith in young players. And I mean, if you look at my history of coaching, there's been many young players. I mean, there was one boy in Malaysia, a boy called Farhan Roslan. Right? He came into training in the November 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of these, Dato Ahmed Shafi, he said to me, he says, "Who's this kid?" I says, "I don't know." I says, "He's just a kid that's came along with one of the boys." He says, "Who is he though?" I says, "I used to call him Messi because he was like small." And I says, "I just call him Messi." He says, well, and then I says, "His name's Farhan Roslan." I says, "He's like really good. He's quite quick and he plays in the wing." I says, "This boy could be quite a good player." He says, "Well, we'll see because we've got a game against Penang." So I says, "Okay, we'll take him. We'll play him against Penang." So
Penang is a big club.
Penang, yeah, Kedah. I was at Kedah at the time. Kedah was one of the biggest in Malaysia. So anyway, we've gone there. The head coach hadn't arrived there at the time, so I was like looking after things until David Mitchell arrived. And Mitch is a great guy. And he was looking at signing some players and that. So anyway, we've gone to Penang, and he's a substitute. So let's wind it back. He's gone on the bus and he's there with like Badro Bakhtia. Now Badro Bakhtia was a national team captain, and Khairul Mohammed was like a striker. He's like big time Malay players, and this little boy, he's like, "I'm here with these guys. Am I really supposed to be here?" So anyway, we've gone there, and half time's gone. I said, "Look, Farhan," I said, "Look, get yourself ready to go on. About 5 minutes into the second half, we'll get you on there." And I mean, that Penang and Kedah games, friendly, I was probably 20,000 people watching it. So he's gone there. I says, "Look," I says, "when you get the ball, just do what you do in training." And he's gone like this. So I don't know if he understood English or not. But I got a translator to say, and he went, "Oh, yeah. So he's got the ball, he's gone in there, he's dropped his shoulder, cut inside, crossed the ball, and we nearly scored. And all the crowd are like, so he's got the ball again, he's taken the boy on the outside, he's put a cross in. The next thing, this Dato's appeared on my shoulder. He says, "This boy, has he signed?" I says, "Well, no, he's just in as a trial." He says, "We better sign him quickly." He says, "Because the opposition team want to sign him." But his story was like phenomenal. He's gone from like being a schoolboy in the November, leaving the school, and then being in the full World Cup qualification in the August. So he was a little special kid. But I mean, there's been other kids along the way. I mean, Ifwat was a goalkeeper that he came to me and he says, "Look, I want to leave." I says, "You want to leave?" He says, "Yeah, I want to leave and go and play M3. I says, "M3? I says, "How much are they going to pay you?" He says, "Oh, they're going to pay me like 6,000. I think just a figure, 6,000 ringgit a month." I says, "How much you get playing in the under 21s?" He says, I get 2,700 or something. I says, "So you're going to go there as a young boy under 21. If you fail in the M3, you're just going to disappear off the face of the earth." I says, "But if you stay here and you get training with the senior team, and then you'll get an opportunity. And then if you don't, and you leave the age groups, you can drop down into M3 or League 2 even." So he says, "Okay, I'll stay." So they went on a tour, and one goalkeeper got injured, right? And lo and behold, who played all the games but Ifwat? So Ifwat then became the number one goalkeeper from nothing to being like the number one goalkeeper. And I think he's even still there presently, and that's been possibly 10 years now. So he must like it there, and his salary, I'm sure, is a lot more than that.
Yeah, that's the beauty of football. See, I really love this ecosystem of international football. So we'll come to that in a while. But I want to talk more about how football, how, in comparing not the quality but the culture of football in you've been there in Malaysia, you've been in other South Asian countries and in Nepal. What difference do you see between Nepal and other countries in terms of footballing culture, the game itself?
Look, I mean, here in Nepal, it's not in your face. I mean, you go to Europe, and it's in your face all the time. You'll be wearing a Rangers jacket, and he'll be wearing a Celtic jacket, and he'll be wearing a Aberdeen shirt, or like it's just like a culture that everything is like, it's branding. I suppose it's big business, I suppose, for these clubs. But everything's in your face all the time. So you're a Rangers supporter, he's a Celtic supporter, he's a Manchester United supporter, a Liverpool supporter. Here, it's in Southeast Asia, it's not as much in your face. I will say something quite controversial now. You go to places like Malaysia and Indonesia, yeah, it is, but it's not as fanatical as what it possibly is in the UK. I mean, some of your families you can't marry into that family because they're Celtic supporters or they're Rangers supporters. I mean, yeah, that's how ridiculous it actually becomes in some of these regions.
So in Nepal, it's more about like we do follow the English Premier League the most. Then comes the La Liga, right? So that has been the culture here, because I think English Premier League, we got the broadcasting early in the days, maybe the late 90s. But the first league that was broadcasted here was the Bundesliga. But still, I think because of the language barrier and the way Premier League has come all the way, the Premier League is more famous. So like there are around 8 to 10 fan clubs in Nepal. Those are registered to clubs in the UK. Just like we have Manchester United fan club, Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal. You even have Tottenham, coach. See?
Yeah, well, Tottenham's a good team. They're one of the top 6.
I don't agree. But they're a good team, yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, the EPL, let's put it in a business model. It's the most aggressive, it's the most powerful brand. I mean, who would have ever thought that there was billions of pounds in Sky TV and things like that? I mean, it's just massive. I mean, even the numbers on the jersey are a specific style, and they're changed yearly in regards to the design, things like that. And it's patented. I mean, it's everything to do with the EPL is big business.
So, and coming back to Asia, in general, how do you find Asian football? Because Asian football has been notorious at some point. I'm just talking about in general, right? So there have been cases of fixing as well, which FIFA is very strict about. There's zero tolerances, right? So keeping all these things, considering all these things, so your time in Asia, including Nepal, how has it been?
Oh, look, one of the saddest things that I've came across in football was match fixing. And then when I was in Malaysia, well, you just need to look where I've been. I'm not going to say where it was, but it was a really difficult time because the players weren't getting paid, and the management possibly were involved in manipulating the situation. So I think the players needed money to pay their mortgages, put food on the table for their wife and children and things like that. So I think they actually set it up. Maybe that was what was suggested to me. And I mean, you as a coach, you go to bed at night thinking, I've got no control over this. How do I manage to stop this from actually escalating? Well, you can't go and pay the players. You can't give them the money because it's like hundreds or tens of thousands of ringgit at the time. You don't have answers, and you're always turning around. I mean, there was one instance that, I mean, we reported it. I mean, SPRM is the anti-corruption there, and they came to me, and I was in their office talking about what was actually happening, and they were asking me about, is this person involved and is that person involved, and what do you think about this person? Do you think that they could be associated with it? And I was really like scratching my head saying, what on earth is going on here? And it was probably the darkest time in my football in regards to, because I had no control over it, zero control. And I just wished that other people could understand what was actually going on. But they couldn't, because they'd never been put in this kind of situation. And I had a goalkeeping coach that used to come to me and tell me, hey, coach, the result's possibly going to be 3-1 today.
Wow.
I said 3-1. So we've played, we've tried to manipulate the team sheet so that people didn't know what was going on. And then we've gone out there and then we've scored a goal. And we were playing quite well. And then all of a sudden they'd score a goal. And then next thing, it was a penalty. So they've got a penalty, and then we've got a player sent off. And then we scored a goal that was like a proper goal. It was and then we've been described it was a foul. And like you just couldn't have, you just couldn't imagine what kind of script it was. It was, and it just brought a grown man like myself to tears.
Sure.
It was very sad.
Because you come from a culture that never has this kinds of incident, especially when you talk about Europe or you talk about the UK. The football is a religion, and something like fixing the match is like a sin in that area, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like I said right at the very, very beginning of the podcast, I mean, I was a winner. I just wanted to win in every aspect, on and off the pitch. I wanted to control what was actually going on, and I just had no control over it. And it was a dark time in regards to like football, and the staff and everything. They had their own opinions about who was behind it, and yeah, it was like really, really sad, because the integrity had just been taken right away from the game altogether. A lot of devious people.
The world of, let's say, football is very captured by fixings and doping. So I think they are the unwanted part of the whole footballing culture. Now, you asked me this before the before the podcast, but I'm going to ask you this now. What might be worse, fixing happening in the country, or the country's football association getting banned? In two different aspects, what might be the worst for that country's football?
Well, for me,
opinion,
for me as a coach, it is the players. That's for me, right? That's my, because that's my direct connection. I just despise it. I mean, I know there was one guy, he'd come to training and everything, he'd have all the latest clothing and everything. And I'm saying to myself, how's he managed to have all that kind of thing? Because I know that he's months behind in his salary. And people used to say, well, you know why? I said, well, no, because I'm a bit naive to it. Or that's how I used to describe it. And he says,
you come from a very different culture.
Yeah, I mean, you would never ever think of that. Growing up as a kid, I would have never thought that as a 50-year-old man, I would have came across players that were fixing matches for money. I would have never ever have ever thought that at all. And I mean, I speak to a lot of my friends and colleagues that over the years about it, and they say, God, that must have been a real tough time for you. And I says, yeah, it was really, really difficult, because you just, as I said before, you had no control over it at all.
So there was this big incident of Nepali football involved in fixing. 3 of the players were caught in that incident. So I did some of my research, and I found out that this guy called Wilson Raj. Do you know his name? I think he was a Singaporean guy or a Malaysian guy who now, a certain time he went to the UK to have those political asylum or something. Now he's kept in some prison or something. So he has a book written about how he did match fixings. So he was a bookie, And in his book, he had mentioned about Nepalese players. And I remember those lines, not exactly maybe, but it said like, when me and my bookie friend met those Nepali players in an foreign country's team hotel, one of the players was so short that he was coming to the shoulder of my friend, and my friend even questioned me, is he even a professional player? So he has even mentioned about Nepalese players, right? So I think it's not just about Nepal or Malaysia. It's more about how we Asia have not been able to take football to that level where Europe has taken it, making it more commercialized. Because every time I talk to someone about football, is Nepal Super League is a perfect example of how uh, football, a passion of people, can be turned into commercial stuff, and people will get in return. You pay 200 rupees for a ticket, you get a full football match, you get to eat, you get the ambience, right? So isn't that a part of football as well, to make it commercial, and that will reduce the whole fixing and the scandal things all around?
Yeah, but I mean, you're going to get scammers in everything. I mean, there's scammers in every walk of life nowadays, and football being such a prominent industry, and it is really an industry. It's got its own ecosystem. It's got everything. It's quite unique. There are a lot of look. Even the agents. I mean, agents are more like people traffickers in a lot of instances. They're taking players from all over the world, and they're getting money for trading. Yeah. I mean, it's something that's totally different. And I remember as a kid and everything, there was never such a thing as an agent. I mean, you were a player and you brokered your own deal and things like that. Agents were, they're a modern type of. I was going to say something else there, but they're, I mean, agents never have a bad player. I mean, even in the Nepal Super League, I mean, how many people phone you up and say, "Oh, I've got this player. He'll be the best player in the Nepal Super League," and you say, "Ah, well, look, thanks, but you'll have to give him to somebody else because we don't have any space for him, and he couldn't fit in our budget anyway."
Even I got approaches from some foreign players and agents as well. So there was this guy who gave me a list of around 15 players. I told him, okay, if you can get me more of a European players. Africans have already been here, because Nepal Super League's attraction was more about the European players who gave the European quality game. So he had sent me a list. So I forwarded it to the teams, but I was not like fully working on it. I was just giving it a shot, a blind arrow in the dark. So didn't work out. But
yeah, well, look, I mean, I think that the African players have done quite well here in Nepal, and the reason being is that it's possibly the surfaces that they're used to playing in. They're used to playing in on a rough track.
True. Right.
So, and they're quite hardy. I mean, some of these African boys are tough boys. I mean, some of them are big, strong fellas, and they do very, very well against the smaller statured Nepalese Asian type players. I mean, you bring a European player here and they want to play on like manicured type grass pitches, and physiotherapist on his beck and call 24 hours a day. Some of the European guys are just not suited for the Asian experience. The other thing as well is that the weather, particularly when I was in Malaysia, Indonesia, you never found a lot of like European or UK type players, because sometimes the heat was just against them, because they're playing at like 9 o'clock or 8:45 at night. Sometimes they'd be playing at 5:30 in an afternoon, and it was just like roasting. It was like 30 degrees. It was full on heat, and like the fair skinned guys, like myself, it's not conducive for good football.
So it's more of the African players are adaptive here. That's the thing we also used to talk. We always talk about it, that no matter what the European, I think, weather and the surface you play, or let's say the infrastructures you've got as a kid, you've been playing, you've been growing up, puts a big impact on where you come and where you go and play. That's also a factor. So, how was Nepal Super League, coach, as a whole for you? Let's start with that.
Well, I'll give you the story. I mean, Nishal, right? He's one of my...
Yeah, this is like, I wanted to ask, how did Lalitpur come in contact with you? Let's start from that. I think the question I asked was for the last part. So
Okay, so Nishal's a friend of mine.
okay,
And Nishal used to say to me, he says, and this is how it is, coach, come on, coach, you got to help my country.
yeah.
And I said, help your country? Yeah, you've got to help the football. I says, help the football? What do you mean help the football? We need you to go there and help. Come on, I see you do all these things for all young players, and I see you do these things for all different teams, and how good things are when you've put things together. I says, well, look, you're saying the nice things, but what do you really want me to do? Coach, can you go there and coach my team? I says, coach your team? I says, no, I can't go there and coach your team and everything, because I need to work. I need to earn money and everything. I says, you wouldn't be able to afford it. He says, come on, coach. And I said to him like many times, I says, no. And I'd actually used some other words before it. And one day he said to me, he says, look, he says, coach, come on, I've been talking to you this for a long time. We really need you to go, and you can help many, many Nepal coaches, and you can help players. I says, Nishal, what do you want me to do? Just come, coach. He says, you can have a little bit of a holiday and everything. I said, look, okay, when do you want me to go? He says, will you come? I says, look, I've said it now. You've broke down my barriers. Nishal, when do you want me to go? He says, I'll get back to you. And then that was the way it all happened. And he had a plan. I think it's a plan. I think he had a thought pattern to get me to go there, because he'd known about me in regards to how many different areas that I cover in football, not just coaching, but in management and development and all these kind of things. So anyway, I ended up, I got what would you describe it? A Zoom call, right? A Zoom call from Luza, one of the management, and then Utsav and then Alok, and I got these things, and they said, look, okay, so we want you to come and everything. There's going to be an auction. And I says, an auction for players? They says, yeah, an auction. What kind of players do you want? And I says, what kind of players do you want? I says, well, I want boys that are like good athletes and can play football. Okay, that's leaving it quite wide open. I says, and then when I come in October, then we can look at getting some foreign players, and then we can do it like that. So they went to the auction, and they had a marquee player, and they selected the local players in regards to who was going to play in like a 4-3-3 type of formation. And it worked like really, really well. So then I arrived in October, and then that's when the headache started, because I had to go through all these like profiles of players in regards to like foreign players. And then we had signed, we had agreed to sign this player, and we'd agreed to sign on this player, and then they'd go away and talk to the players and everything, and then it wasn't happening because there wasn't enough money, because the budget was so small. And then I actually said to them, I said, look, I know it's not easy signing foreign players. I says, but this is ridiculous, because the budget that we've got to work on is like really, really tight. And they said, well, this is the budget we've got. So we just kept on going. So Rabindra, Luza, Utsav would come to my hotel room, would plug in the computer. It would be up on the big screen there. and we'd be just going through lots of like links for players, transfer markets, all these kind of things. And that process took until November. So I arrived in October, and we never had signed Papa, Emu, Jeff, Jonathan Cantillana was going to come. I knew him from Indonesia. He would have been a fantastic player for us, but he ended up getting injured playing for Palestine. So then that gave us another headache, because this was like lastminute.com, because the four international boys, Ananta, Cici, Sanis and Danish, they were coming like last 2 or 3 days before, and Jonathan was going to be exactly the same.
Oh, they were playing the World Cup qualifiers.
Well, yeah, Jonathan was in the World Cup qualifiers as well. So this caused a massive problem, because we needed to get a replacement for Jonathan, and we needed somebody that was quite technically gifted. Like Jonathan's like very, very good at like free kicks and corners. So then that's when we got
Nikhil Kadam.
Yeah, that's how that all came about. And so we're running around at the last minute to get Nikhil's signature and getting him here and things like that. But the training facility that we had for the locals is possibly good, but for the foreigners and everything, it was a little bit of a nightmare, because it was. I mean, I was, as I've been quoted in saying before, there was lions and tigers in the corner in that jungle, and it was
Deepika's ground.
yeah, and it was just not healthy for me, even, because there was like dust and everything. It was I was like Lawrence of Arabia with the handkerchief over the face, and it was like really, really difficult. And I'd speak to Nishal all the time. I say, Nishal, I says, this isn't as easy as what I thought it was going to be. And he says, I know, coach. He says, but you said you'd come. And that was it. And I mean, even like last night, I was speaking to him, and he's a really cool guy. And he was saying, you see, coach, he says, you play the best football. He says, out of all the teams, your team played the best football, because I knew that your team would do exactly that, and you would put the young players in. I says, how did you know that? He says, I know, because I watched what you've done for years. He says, and like Kushal got an opportunity, came on and scored a very, very important goal for us. And he says, and then I actually call him Rocky. Like he's Rocky to call him. That's his name. And
Nikhil?
The central defender, young boy. And
Ananda.
No, the young boy that Ashwin, is it Ashwin? Is his real name?
Ashwin.
Yeah, right. The young central defender. I call him Rocky, because I just says, I just go out there and fight with him. So that was it. So he was always supportive of me, because he knew that I would give young players a chance. And as I've said in previous interviews before, we always had a vision that we would play young players when things became a bit easier, because we thought we wouldn't be drawn a few games. We thought we'd win, and then we'd be up in that, up towards the top of the league in the group section, and then we could play some of the younger players, and we could give some more players game time. But that just didn't work, because it was just too difficult, because everybody wanted to beat us. Everybody saw that we were the best football team, and I'm not having a go at the other clubs, or I'm not being big-headed or anything like that. But we had more shape. We had more ideas about how the game should be played. And I mean, we played a couple of formations. We played 4-3-3. We played 4-4-2 flat. We played 4 diamond 2. We were quite flexible in regards to how we actually played. But some of the real highlights for me personally, some of the Nepalese players I thought were decent. I think that Sanish, I think he could be like a really good player as a fullback. I mean, he's he's got legs to go up and down this touchline all day.
3 years ago, it was like 2 years ago. Sonish was playing for the Armed Police Force, and they won this tournament in Pokhara, the one I was telling you earlier, Aharara Gold Cup. He won it with APF. APF fought really well. Sonish was, as a commentator, he was the highlight of that team for me. So after the tournament, I think it was the evening or the next day's evening, I met him at a restaurant and we talked. And I always try to explain players about players like Johan Cruyff and Dennis Bergkamp, right? So I tell them to not just watch. What happens with this generation is they're all about Messi and Ronaldo, because if you are a player, you need to think outside the box. That's always there, but you need to do more research on your style of gameplay. What can suit you actually? If you are a Ronaldo kind of player, Messi's gameplay is not going to help you. If you have copy Ronaldo's gameplay, if you are Ronaldo kind of player, then you progress more, right? So Sonish, since he runs there, he remembers this. I told him to research about Johan Cruyff, the drop of the shoulder, how he used to turn, and something that could actually give him that edge while he's running down the flank. So these kind of things. I always remember that evening, that talk with him about players, about reading books, about doing how to do research on the internet. But personally, apart from him being a Lalitpur player, in general, Sonish has really stepped up to the mark, especially also in the national team.
Yeah, look, I think he's an exceptional player. I mean, I from day one, I seen something in him that I said, this guy's like an excellent athlete. I said, now we've got to try and get him a little bit more astute, a little bit more smarter on how we can actually get around the pitch, because I'd seen him playing in the national team and I thought he was just a little bit like rigid and a little bit stale. So my aim was to really to try and get him playing. And I mean, we were more right-sided than left-sided because I think we only had one left-footed player in the team, and that was Nickel, right? Okay. And I mean, yeah, but that's a we'll come to that story. But I thought he was like exceptional, and I thought like Ananta could play out to him, because Ananta's passing is quite good, and he's quite smart. He's an intelligent type football player, and he's like really, really good in the air. So can we try and get him on the ball? Can we play out from the back? Can we get Ananta on the ball? If it's not going to go the right side, can we get it out to Karim, and then we can play forward more into the left hand side, maybe into like Danish. So we tried a few things, because remember we only had these kids or these players. What was it? 3 days before the start of the league. So that it took us a little bit. Yeah, it took us a little bit of a time to get these players playing the way that we really wanted to. So it wasn't until like the finals, like the elimination against Pokhara, and then Kathmandu, then Pokhara, and then the final. Right. It took us all that time to get us to have a more fluent type of playing style. I thought Dinesh he was very, very good. I mean, my pronunciation of his name is probably totally
Dinesh.
Wrong. So Dinesh, right? I say that right?
Dinesh.
Okay.
Dinesh.
So anyway, whatever his name is.
You can call him Henjan.
Well, Henjan's probably
Henjan is easier.
I thought he was exceptional. I thought that he had something, he could buzz around, he had energy to burn. And I was told that he had injury problems, like knees, and he'd had operations. And I know what it's like to have operations, particularly with knees. And I thought he was quite dynamic. I thought he was always on the front foot. He was always trying to look to get combination plays. He was always trying to get involved in the game. So I always thought he was quite unique. I thought he was different to the other Nepalese players that I'd seen playing. This boy, to me, there was more about him. And CC, another good young boy, he's quite intelligent in regards to just his movement. in all the football moments, he's never sleeping. He's never like switched off. He's always like moving. He's always looking for a transition moment. Where am I going to be if this happens? And I think that's like really positive. The only problem that he possibly does have, he's not vocal enough. That's his possible downfall.
Sissy?
Yeah. He's just not, he just maybe doesn't project his voice loud enough and put that aggressive flavour to it, if I'm describing it in the correct way. Then we had Bibik. Bibik was good. I mean, Bibik probably scored the best goal in the competition. That was like unbelievable. And I'd seen him score similar type of goals in training because we play this game in the box or in or around the box. And it's like a transition game. It's like greens versus blues with orange on the outside. And if the greens have got it, and the blues transition, they've got to get to the orange quickly, and then you can score. And I'd seen that happen in training like several times, and then he's actually put it into practice. And I thought, wow. I said, that was like brilliant.
That was one of the best goals of Nepal Super League.
Oh, it was the best one.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a free kick, they kept on saying, but the ball's, it's stationary. There's no interference. The ball's not coming at an angle. You don't know the pace of the ball. Your technique from a free kick is easier to do than somebody on a volley and somebody putting pressure on you. So I would have thought that would have definitely been the best goal of the competition. And he would agree with us, and I'm sure his family as well. But the way he celebrated, it was like phenomenal, because he's had a bit of a rough few months because I was a passing of a family member, and I thought that was fitting that he scored such a fantastic goal like that.
Also, when you talk about, I just want to mention Nikhil Kadam because in the game against Pokhara, Nikhil Kadam received his second yellow and he was shown a red. So that was a big loss for your team, because going into the final, your team is already down with a player like Nikhil Kadam, because Nikhil's is already good in the wings, yes, but in the central area he also creates sometimes he complements Hinjan especially, and these two, they play really well. So what was it like going to the final without one of your best players?
Well, I've always said that the players, whoever goes in, will always give you 100%. Right? They'll always give you 100%. And that's all I ever ask from the players. Whoever plays, as long as you give us 100%, I'll never criticise you. Right? And I remember that from like, as a young boy, you must give 100%. Don't worry if it doesn't work, it's okay. Right? But as long as you give 100%. So whoever was going to go in was always going to give us 100%. And then, I mean, in the final, we ended up Einal Margin. He went in there and he gave his 100%. And then as soon as his time was up, just pop your hand and then we get you out, and then somebody else goes in and adds their flavour. So, I mean, I never had any doubt that whoever was going to play would do a good job for us. Yeah, we missed. There was some big misses, really. I mean, I was Nikal, I was Bibik, and I was, unfortunately, Roshan. He had a ACL. He had an operation there the other day. And
I saw the pictures recently.
Yeah, God bless him. He'll come back as a better human being. And so that was three boys that we had missing. And then we had the young boys, like, so you had Kushal. That was like, so from somebody missing out, a misfortune, it was somebody was fortunate enough to gain an opportunity to become, get exposure and get experiences of playing in a cup final. I mean, what happened in the cup final with Papa's face was just like, it was wrong. But it was possibly an accident, right? But, I mean, if that was on the street, somebody could have gotten to jail for something like that. And I mean, he played throughout the cup final, and he had a hole in his head, and teeth missing, and
3 teeth.
yeah. So I mean that was quite an amazing feat in itself that he played as long as what he did. It just showed character. I mean, he was involved in the goals. He was involved. Yeah, I mean, the free kick. I mean, that was something that we practiced in training, and then we got another one when the third one when it came off his chest and he was got it, and he's like overhead kick. So I mean, he was involved. He was very important to the team, and when he was injured, we missed him. We missed his energy. We missed his humour, and believe me, his humour was a big thing that we didn't have in the change room. And it's a component that possibly a lot of football people possibly don't understand. You've got to have that good atmosphere in your changing room, and he was instrumental in
Papa Ibukibi.
Yeah, he was instrumental in having that a little bit of humour and having something to say and bouncing a few things around. He was quite a character. And look, I'd like to think that Papa and Emu and the foreign boys that we had will come back. If they don't come back for Lalitpur, they'll maybe come back for another team and play for somebody, because they've been quite important in creating that ambiance in the stadium, because without them doing some of the crafting goals and being involved in football actions and that, the crowd wouldn't be so active and vibrant. And they've helped the NSL to where it is possibly presently.
I want to talk to you about Kushal Deuba, a 17-year-old, right? He played the recent SAF Championship under 19s with Nepal, and we lost to India on the penalties, right? So that game, he was one of the players who actually scored one of the penalties. But a lot of Nepali players missed the penalty. And as people saw, people only see, okay, a player scoring or either missing, right? But what I see is the pressure that you have to take that penalty in. I also take it into consideration. And Kushal, a 17-year-old boy, going on to take that penalty, right, and scoring it, shows the character of the player. Because the factor, as I think being a commentator, I understand this, that the character players need to have is of something. And Kushal Deuba, if given the right coaching, if given the right mentorship, he is going to go somewhere in the books of Nepali history. Will I be wrong when I say about this?
I agree with you. I think that you'll find that Kushal's been fortunate that he's been given exposure to playing with senior guys at a younger age group. So he maybe be 15. Like when I was like 15, 16, the senior players used to tell me to settle down. Settle down, we've got a game in the weekend. Because I was just like, I was intense. I would kick people and I was very competitive. He's been fortunate enough that he's been in possibly good environments, or as good as you possibly can have in Nepal, that he's played with some senior players, and he was possibly broken in regards to he'd gone through that nervous stage or whatever, whereas a lot of the younger boys, or the boys at the same age as him, they hadn't experienced playing with senior men, and they hadn't been used to being in pressure situations. So I mean, Kushal, I mean, when he played with us, for instance, I used to say to him, I said, look, I says, when you get the chance to score, you've got to take the opportunity and you've got to get it in the back of the net as quick as you possibly can. Don't think that you've got time and everything. Just get it in the back of the net, and a goal's a goal, and it'll change everything for you. People will accept you better. They'll give you the ball more, right? And I says it'll change your life and it'll change your football totally.
True.
Then in the hotel the other day, he said to me, he says, Coach, he says, you were right. He says, that goal has changed my life totally. I says, so you never believed me, aye? And he went, which I don't know if it's a yes or a no. He just give us one of this type of thing. And I mean, he's a great kid. If we, and I'll say we because I'm still here at the moment, if we can get him into a program, or if we could get him into a good group of kids of reasonable ability, he'll flourish and blossom.
True.
And I mean, good players. There are some good young players here. Honestly, I mean, there's several players here that I could see.
From other teams, which player did you really like?
There's a boy that plays for Dungari, right? The left full back boy, right?
The one who won the emerging player?
No. He was a left-footed player. He played left full back, right? And I say to myself, if you had him and you had Sanish in the same team, you've got balance then, because the boy he actually is a good player.
Left full, it was not. Kamal is right.
I think he wore number 10 in his back, number 11 in his back.
I know, but I forgot for the moment.
Well,
okay.
I mean, I thought he was quite good, because I've said to myself, you know, if you had Shanice there and you had this boy here, you would actually have a balanced team. And if you had Ananta in the centre and you had Rohit, it plays in Indonesia. It's a central defence.
Rohit.
Yeah, you could have a nice back four with those, and you could actually play a little bit out from the back. Whereas no disrespect to Sanjit, he wasn't left-footed. He was always right-footed, so he was always chopping across his body and then having to play or just playing short passes so we could keep possession of the ball. But he was a good one. I mean, even the kid that was the emerging player, believe it or not, he was with us in the pre-season or the pre-competition.
Which player?
I call him Latin because at that stage he had a ponytail like.
From which team? Kathmandu?
No, the Dungari. The rising one, number 41, I think he was.
41. Yes. Rohan Kargi.
Yeah.
Rohan Kargi.
So he was with us, and I said to him, I said, look, I says, you're a great kid. I says, there's nothing wrong with you. I says, but in our team, I don't think you'd get a game. I says, you'd be happy. I'd be happy for you to come and train with us and everything. No problems with that at all. Because, I mean, we had kids off the street training with us because we just didn't have enough players to at one stage with all the internationals, with all the foreign players, we only had like 9-10 players at one stage. So we needed to bolster the numbers. So we were taking in like young kids and giving them a little bit of, exposure. And, but he was with us, and I said to him, I said, look, I says, I can't see you playing, but if you want to come and train with us and that, I've got no problems with it. And then he said, look, he says, I've had an offer to go to Dungari. I says, well, mate, go, take it, because I cannot guarantee you nothing here. And he said, okay. And then he thanked me, and then even in the final, he thanked me and said that, the time that he had with us at Lalitpur, he says he really liked it. And if it wasn't for that, he would possibly never have ever won that award. And that was the type of thing he said to me, and I thought it was quite humbling, and I thought it was quite nice that he'd actually, because we had the best goalkeeper, with the best top goal scorer, with the best player, and then the emerging player was somebody that we had. It was training with us at the beginning of the season or prior to the beginning. So we'd touched everything. And I thought to myself, and then we were the champions. So there was nothing else that we could have really done. I think we were the best team.
I just remember something. It was the first game of Lalitpur and you got 2 yellows. Right, and the second yellow was for something you said. Like there was some rumors going around. You said something else, but the referee misheard something for it's of something else. So what was the story behind that?
Well, what I was led to believe at one stage was that when I say back off, right, it sounds like
okay,
right. I know I said that back off a couple of times. Right, and yeah, maybe it was. I mean, I know I did step onto the pitch, and it was just like training. I've just gone and got the ball and kicked it to the player to give it so that they could get started again. That was possibly stupidity.
That was your first yellow.
No, that was the second one.
Ah.
The first one was the back off one, I think.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not really. I would never. Yeah, that's not really me. That, but yeah, I mean, the second one was just like stupidity. I've gone there. It was just like a training thing. I mean, it was like the last minute of the game or something. And I've just gone on there just to give him a ball so that he could like play it, and then we're up and running and going again. But it was definitely a strange. Yeah, I've never came across that one before. But anyway, it's the Nepal experience.
Yeah. So and then there was this. I want to talk about the Valley Derby. We had two Valley Derbies. The first one was important for Kathmandu to win because they had to win, and even a loss would qualify. You guys were already qualified, but you guys wanted to end it on a high note, right? So the Valley Derby, it was one of the most anticipated matches of the group phase. So how did that come on for you guys?
Well, we always wanted to finish either like 1 or 2. So I mean, if we'd won that game, we'd have finished number 2, right? And we didn't want to go through the phase of finishing 4th, and then you don't get the recovery and
extra matches.
Yeah, you don't want that.
It's like playing the Europa.
Yeah. So we tried, and we failed. We got beat 1-0. Were we the better team? Yeah, I think we were the better team on the. But football's football, and we lost 1-0, and I remember going home to the hotel, and I says, "Well, we'll beat them next time." I says, because we know exactly what they're like. We know what they'll try and do, and we'll just steamroll them. And I mean, I'm not being rude or anything by that. I just thought, right, the next game we play, we'll do this and we'll do that. So we came up with a plan in regards to how we were going to do it. So then that's when we said, right, okay, we're going to go to 4 diamond, because they can't handle dealing with Papa and Emo through the centre with Danish coming in behind, and then they won't be able to deal with like Adikia, like coming in the wide areas. So then they'll just get swamped with 4 and 5 players. So that was my thought partners behind that. So I spoke to Rabindra, who unfortunately couldn't be at the game because that was a little bit of a problem. And he said, "Yeah, coach." He says, that'll be quite good. And then I went to training, and then I said to the blokes, to the players, I says, "Look, this is what I want to try and do." And I was always open with the players, because they're not kids. I mean, these boys are like professional athletes. I've been at some of the biggest clubs in the world. Well, one of them has in particular. True. And I used to say to them, "Now, we'll play 4 diamond 2." And they used to say, "Okay." And I used to say, "But in the transition moment, we must make sure that we're able to close down here and close down there." And then they used to say, "Okay, how are we going to do it?" I says, "Well, I think we should do it like this. And then we should make sure that the diamond, he goes and closes, and then we can drop in, and then one of the 2 can drop in at the top of the diamond." "Sure." I says, "Let's try it." And we tried it. It worked. It was successful. And what we're going to do now? I says, and this is like Emo, for instance, played top level. And he says, "We're going to press that high." I says, "Yeah, we'll press as high up as we possibly can so that we don't have to gain that extra yardage to get forward again." I says, "Because it'll be tough, because our energy levels, we've got to conserve them." Okay, that makes sense. So that's how we did it. So we try to play as high up the park as we possibly could, and we try to put them under pressure. But we try to avoid them playing out wide. So we try to make sure that they played inside. And when they played inside, they'd play into 6 of us, which was the diamond plus the 2 strikers. So we worked on that in training. And when I say worked on it, we only worked on it in one training session because time was of a premium at that stage. And it worked like really, really well for us. And then we put pressure on, and they didn't seem to be able to handle it that well at all.
Also, one of their main players, Tozidinov, was suspended for that game because it was always Tozidinov and linking up with Shokruk, who used to create those games. And it was always Tozidinov who went for the attack, created the games, and that maybe made easier for your team to...
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, it's all ifs and buts, is it? I mean, he wasn't there. If he was, what could he have done? Well, he wasn't there, so he couldn't do it. So, I mean, it was one of these things that I thought we were technically and tactically quite astute. I thought we did all the football moments relatively well. Yeah, you're going to get occasionally, it's not going to work, or they're going to get out or whatever. But the majority of the time, it was like really, really positive. I mean, Henjin was like fantastic that day. I like
Aditya.
I mean, he was in and out like all the time in regards to.
He started all 3 games after the league.
Yeah. It was just his energy. His energy was like perfect for us. I mean, technically, not the best in regards to, no disrespect, not technically gifted, but nobody can ever knock him for his energy and his work rate. Maybe he's a little bit short and he can get pushed around a little bit in times, but he gave as good as he got. That's for sure. But he was like a real plus in the final series. He was like good.
He brought a different flair, a different dimension to the game. Created chances, his runs. It's always the players I see in Nepal. There have been many, and there have been now as well. Some have left for Australia as well. So what happens with Nepalese players is they run down the flank, and at one point they don't know either I need to cut in, I need to go along with the ball, or I need to cross it from the flank. And when do I need to cross it, and where do I need to cross it? So, but with Aditya, I can see that this player has that footballing intelligence in him, and he can. I think it was the second goal versus Kathmandu or Pokhara, the goal that came off a corner. That corner was created by Aditya. He went to the flank, he crossed the ball. The goalkeeper had to clear the ball out, and it went for a corner. And in the corner, it was a goal.
These things that you've just spoken about, they can all be fixed, and it's by coaching and the training sessions. True. I mean, I've said it several times, and other people that have been on podcasts have probably told you as well. The goals that we scored, a lot of them were all prefabricated in training. So, I mean, the second goal, the first goal we scored in the final was a free kick. We did that in training. Second goal we scored, right? We did that in training because we get down and then we cut back, and then you got to have the runner coming in towards the penalty spot area. Right, so that was another one. The header that we scored against Kathmandu with a free kick, Imu, that's something that we did at training, right? So I mean, these goals were all prefabricated. I mean, we did all the actions in training, and then we put them into practice on game day, and that's what it's all about. That's why you train, so you understand what's your role in the team structure. What are you responsible for in the football moment? These are all things that we were quite big on in our training. And unfortunately, the league only went for 9 games, and it was just like tough, and we just didn't have enough time. And that's why in the final series we were far better, because we'd worked together longer, and we had more of a chemistry then, because we understood what team structure, what we were supposed to do in this moment, what we were supposed to do in that moment. And that's why, come the final, I mean, we were by far the better team.
The final said it all, because to go 1 goal down, both of the teams in the final were with the attacking mentality. As I was in the commentary box, we were saying that as well. you know, coach, there always this you play the other games to win, you play the final not to lose. So always in the finals the team play in a back foot, they play very slowly, but that game was all end to end open football, and it's very difficult, especially in finals when your opposition has scored and you have to come back. So any change in tactics after you conceded the first goal
No,
in the
well,
final?
well, what we did was that we conceded the first goal, and it was a sloppy goal. We lost it. Well, it was a bit shitty the way that it all happened. And then we scored. Now we scored there with the last kick of the half, which was like was good because they were feeling a bit sorry for themselves. They were gone into the changing room. They didn't know what was going on. We went into the changing room where we were quite buoyant. And then I kept on saying to the boys, the first 10 minutes of the second half, we've got to make sure that we capitalise on how they are feeling. They're feeling down, they're feeling battered, they're feeling bruised. We've got to have good energy. We've got to go at them, and we've got to be more aggressive, right? And I mean aggressive with the ball. I'm not talking about kicking balls.
And on the attack.
Yeah. So we've got to be on the front foot. We've got for the first 10 minutes, we've really got to give it everything we've got. So we've gone out there. I think it was Ino Margin, right? I think it was like a replica of the Hengen goal, and Ino Margin's missed it, right? It's gone. But then we've got the second chance. Addy's done very, very similar movement again, but this time it was Hengen. It was in there, and he's put it in the back of the net. So that was like a really, really important goal for us because then we were upbeat. We had a little bit of swagger about us then. And then we got the third goal, and then once we got the third goal, I think that was about it, done and dusted. It was we kept possession of the ball, we moved the ball around, and then we conceded a sloppy goal again at the back post. I mean, I was actually going to make 3 substitutions just prior to that, and then I just said, "Oh no, we better come in here and just like pull our heads in a bit and just play out the next 2 minutes or whatever it was, just in case there was." And I think they did get a corner. I think they did get a corner in
at the end.
And I think they put, like, the goalie came up, and it was this. There was a little bit of chaos. And I mean, if something had gone in there, then the game would have been like a different. That would have taken another twist for the not for the better, that's for sure. But no, it was an exciting game, and I think the supporters from both sides, I think they would have enjoyed it. And I mean, the stadium was full. So, I mean, that's a reflection of the type of football that you're possibly playing. They were vocal. I mean, I'd heard all kinds of stories that this hasn't been seen for many, many years, that a football ground's been full, and there's been so many supporters locked out.
In the final, yes, definitely.
But I mean, I think that, like myself, have I played a part in it? Yeah, I have. I've played a part in it because I put the plan together in regards to how we were going to play. And I mean, when I first came, there was only Utsav, Luza, Rabindra, myself. Unfortunately, the goalkeeping coach had a bit of sickness in his family, so he couldn't be there as often. And then occasionally I'd have Nishal bash my ear in regards to, how's it going, coach? Are you enjoying it? Is the weather good? And all that kind of thing. But I think that my contribution to this has been quite considerable, because without me putting a little bit of structure into what people were doing and how they were doing it, I mean, we used to pre-training, right? We used to weigh the players. Post-training, we used to weigh the players so that we could see what the differential was with the hydration levels. And then when it came to the final, I mean, when we came to the final, it was a case of you were always just maintaining the boys. I mean, we were checking the hydration levels to see where they were with our weights. We'd do that like a couple of times a day, actually, to see what they were actually doing. Had they been hydrating enough, because hydration's like really, really important, the regeneration process and the recovery process. So, I mean, these type of things were things that had possibly never ever been done here before. I mean, we would have a meeting before we'd go for dinner, and all it was just to get the weights of the players so that we could actually see what was going on and who was following the program and who wasn't. And everybody was, they were all professional in regards to, they'd follow that, and then we'd tell them, I'd say, look, you know, you got to go to sleep with your compression garments on. They said, aye, why? No, you got to go because it'll keep everything together and it'll help the regeneration. Like some of the soft tissue repairs itself during the night and things like that. And they'd never ever thought into this. And then like the physios were like really, really good. I mean, and the kit man was unbelievable. I mean, if you'd seen the kit man's room, oh my God, the kit man was amazing. He had junk. Well, I wouldn't call it junk. He had bowls. He had buckets of soapy detergent with bibs in them, soaking them so that he could, so they could smell sweet for the players.
Oh, nice.
And then he would have markers and cones. It was like Aladdin's cave when you went in there. You just didn't know what you were going into.
Was he the Nate the Great from Ted Lasso?
No, but look, I mean, you'd go into the physio's room, and it was like, if, as you know, in football, if you want to know anything about anything, you go into a physio's room, because all the gossip. You could buy a car in the physio's room. You could buy a house in it. Like, you know what it's like.
I know. I remember my time. Yeah.
So I mean, there was one day I'm going in. I'm in the physio's room because I just walked along a corridor and I heard somebody singing, and because they've got the little hole, right? They don't know who's there, and then all of a sudden he's singing away in Nepalese, and I'm listening to this. And then all of a sudden he finished, and I collapsed. And I put, and he could tell who it was because of the shoes that I was wearing. And he went, "Thank you, coach."
It was the physio.
No, it was one of the players getting treatment.
Oh,
so he was like singing away, and the physio was working on.
The player was singing.
Yeah, the player was singing.
Wow.
And then
who was it?
I'm not going to mention it because he might get embarrassed. But yeah, it was like a funny moment. That's like football is meant to be fun, and there should be no pressure. And as I said to you before, pressure is something when you got a hole in your roof, and there's water pouring into it, and then your wife's pregnant with a second baby, and you've got no money to buy food for them. That's what you call pressure. Football's meant to be fun, and these little fun moments are priceless. I mean, are priceless. I always told them, I said, look, I'm not the fun police. I said, I'm not going to watch everything that you eat. I'm not going to watch what time you go to your bed. I says, you're adults. And one of the boys used to say to me, he says, okay, Dad.
Dad, nice.
Okay, Dad, he says. I went, that's it. Just you remember, son. And that was it. So, I mean.
That's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
That's a relation you build with the players, right?
Yeah, look, I mean, I never used to go to dinner with the players. And the reason I never used to go to dinner with the players, or I never intentionally went to dinner with the players. Sometimes the food would be late or something, and then I'd go in and meet some of them. But I always wanted to keep my distance away from them, because if they see you all the time, your voice isn't as prominent when you're actually talking about the important things like football. And I mean, I used to say to them, I said, look, my time with you guys is either at a meeting at 11:30 until 12:30, and then at training between 2:30 and 4:30. I says, you won't see me at recovery sessions because the other staff will take them. You won't see me in the physio's room that much because I don't want you to be looking over your shoulder, thinking I'm checking on injury. Because you know, players, I mean, nobody's ever 100% fit. You go in there, he sees you, and he says, oh no, I hope the physio doesn't tell him what's really wrong with me. So I just get little reports from the physios about what was going on. But no, I used to keep my distance away from them because I just used to think to myself, look, it's better that they focus more on me when I speak at training and in meetings rather than in a physio's room or over dinner or anything like that. So that was the relationship I had with the players, and I think they respected me, and I definitely respected them, because as a young guy, I didn't like it when the staff and everyone was saying, "Oh, make sure you're in your bed at this time."
Your physio, Suraj Bhusal, I call him Dr. Jhatka. Jhatka means shock.
All
So
right.
Dr. Shocker, he just he shocks you somewhere and you're all fine. So if I have any muscle spasm or anything, it's always him when I call. So we were last year for the cricket team, we were about to work together as well, but we got someone from India. And when the thing about physios is, their room are like the chill place and the players are getting treatment. And every time we were with him, he was the physio of this famous Bollywood actress Katrina Kaif. So we always used to tell him, so tell us about Katrina and everything. So he was always the mood creator guy. So yeah, that the relation you build with your team and everything. So after all this, so do you find your time worth it here in Nepal?
Yeah, Nishal said to me, "So if you enjoyed it," I says, "You put me under a bit of pressure here," because he was always saying to me, coach, he says, you'll make a massive difference to Nepal football. And I said, rubbish, but that wasn't the word I used. Have I made a difference to Nepal football? I'd like to think I've changed a lot of people's lives, whether it be coaches, because I know that what we've done in the training sessions and what my philosophy was that I put across to the coaches was that it's all about football. We've got to play football. We've got to be on the front foot. We've got to try and be aggressive on the ball. We've got to be trying to look to create scoring opportunities. But in saying that, in the event that the ball breaks down and there's a transition moment, we've got to be ready for that. And one of the coaches actually, he says, "Coach," he says, "you're the first person that's ever mentioned that." I says, "Well, look, if you score one goal and you concede two, do you win?" No. I says, "Well, you've got to be careful about what you're actually doing, and you've got to be prepared for that moment that the ball's turned over and you haven't got 10 players in front of the ball. Who's going to be behind it?" And he said to me, he says, "That's the first time that somebody's ever said about the transition moment and about being prepared for it." I says, "Well, that's maybe the difference between me and some of your other local guys." I says, "But have you picked anything up about it?" He says, "Yes." He says, "That's what I've got to be aware of now." I says, "Well, that's good." The goalkeeping coach, for instance, he's a nice guy. We used to try and compare a local goalkeeper against a foreign goalkeeper. And I used to use the local goalkeeper was like a mosquito, right? He's all over the place. Whereas like the European type goalkeeper is more like calm and composed and more like switched on in regards to what's happening on the pitch. Whereas a lot of the time the local goalkeeper was like running around and not set. And he possibly agrees with me now. In fact, he said to me the other day, he says, "I never realised what the difference actually was." Because like Jeff, you never saw Jeff jumping around, did you? He was like always composed and like calm and things.
More about position rather than dives.
Yeah. Your angles, you've got to get your angles right. And if you get your angles right, you don't need to be diving. And if you've got your organisation, you're like a conductor of an orchestra. If you're a goalkeeper, you're and you're just guiding people. And you'll find that the best goalkeepers are never dirty because they haven't been diving around, because they've made the defenders or the team defend in front of them, whether it be high up the pitch, in the middle of the pitch, or in the back, the back four there. You'll find that they'll be organised and they don't need to dive and stop balls because they get everybody to do that in front of them. So that was another conversation that we had. But yeah, look, Kushal, Raki, I'd like to think that I've made a big impression with them in particular because they're the young boys, and even like your Shanice and your CCs and your even your Anantas, for instance. I always used to say Ananta says, time your run. Don't go in there too early. Make sure the ball's always in front of you, because if it's always in front of you, you can attack it and you can score. And he used to say to me, yeah. Whether it was yes, he agreed with me on that. But I mean, we scored several goals from that. But when he used to make the run and it was early and the ball was over the top of him, then you can't do anything. But if the ball's always in front of you, then everything's okay. It's good. I mean, Sinis, I kept on saying, I'm just make sure you play and you can support, right? You can underlap, or nowadays what they call it, inverted fullbacks or something, right? Underlap. Yeah, I mean, you can go inside or you can go outside, but the biggest thing is you got to communicate and you got to talk to whoever's on the ball what you're actually going to do. And sometimes you're not going to be the second ball. Sometimes you're going to be the third ball. So you're like the third man running, you can get in behind and then you can put a cross in. And then if you aim for the front post, or the front bar as you people call it, right?
First bar.
Well, first bar. Right? If you aim for the first bar, right, it means that you've always got somebody at the back to make that second run, or you've got the cutback one that we scored in.
Ananda? One was Imo and one was Ananda with that goal, I guess.
Yeah. Look, I mean, sometimes old age gets to me and I forget, but it's... I
remember this because I was doing the flash interview with Ananda. Maybe I think at that point I asked him about it and he told me and I just got to remember.
Yeah, well, I mean, the free kicks, for instance, that would have definitely been Emu at the back, right? Because because that was a one that we did many times at training, and we said, look, it works. Let's make sure. And then when it worked and everything, he's kind of gone like that type of thing and acknowledged it. That was correct.
So rumors had it that Ian has already signed a contract for the next season with Lalitpur as well. Is that true?
No.
It's just what I'm just
No,
it's nothing. I'm just just pulling your leg there. So do you like if once again called up by Nepal, be it apart from Lalitpur, any other team, maybe the A divisions, would you come for the club football?
Would I come for a club? That's a difficult question. Look, I've been asked, would I be interested in doing something else here in Nepal?
Offers are already on the table.
Well, I wouldn't say offers. I would say there's been expression of interest.
Queries.
Would I be interested in doing something? There'd been a couple of people speak to me about getting involved in doing something with like national teams and things like that. Whether that's true or false, I don't know. I can't put any truth to that. Is it something I would like to do? Yeah. I mean, if boys like Kushal, I think I could be a massive influence in boys like that. And then they could then possibly get involved in future World Cup qualifications with whomever is the coach. So, I mean, these boys are the future and they've got to be looked after. And if it's somebody like myself that looks after them, I know that they would be looked after quite well and they would be guided in the right direction. But no, there's been a couple of offer discussions in regards to going to some other different countries. Whether that comes to fruition or not. I mean, while I was here, probably about 5 weeks ago, there was an offer came through to me. An agent was saying to me, "You got to come now." I says, "I ain't come." He says, "You're not coming?" I says, "No." I says, "I'm not coming." He says, "They must be paying you a lot of money." I says, "Well, that's a no as well." I says, "Because they're not." He says, "But they must be paying you a lot of money if you're not going to like leave and go." And I says, "No, that's not the thing." I says, "I'm a man of integrity. If I make a commitment to something, I follow that through. And the guy just didn't believe me. He says, between you and he says, and some of these other profile players you've got, they must be spending a fortune. I says, well, look, I says, that's not true either. I says, because the budget has been very, very tight, right from very, very day one. But what am I going to do? That was your question, was it?
Yeah.
I'm going to go home and see my dad, because my dad said he's had a couple of little, he's been a little bit sick as well. I'll see him, see what's going on there.
Are you going to Scotland?
Yeah, I'll go to Scotland. Yeah, he's there. He lives by himself. Like I said earlier on, my mum passed away a few years ago, and he's lived there by himself, and there's no other family there. My sister lives in Australia, and there's just nobody else. So I'll go and see him, and it'll be happy days in regards to catching up with him, because he used to phone me at all kinds of strange night and day in regards to how we're going and how's the team and how you feeling and what's going on, and he'd ask me like more questions than there would be in a press conference, because he was just enthusiastic, and he's just been a big supporter of myself, which I'm thankful for, because without his support, life would be fairly difficult. And it's always nice when it's your dad, and it would have been nice if my mum as well, but unfortunately that couldn't happen. But yeah, so I'll go back there. When I go, I don't know, because it's all about getting an airline ticket now. I mean, they spoke about something today to me about going, and I says, right, okay, let's see when we can get going. And then one thing said the 17th of January. I says that's the day after my birthday. I says that's a long way away. So
happy birthday in advance.
Yeah, well, I don't have too many birthdays now, because I'm starting to get too old. Yeah, we're getting old in the tooth now. So yeah, but let's hope that we'll go back to Scotland, and then I'm sure that the phone will ring, and I know that there's people want me to do things for them now, but we'll just wait and see what option comes up, or what I think's the best option for me to go down. But Nepal, would I come back? Yeah, I'd come back. It depended on what they wanted me to do. I mean, I've always been a person who's enjoyed being involved with it, like under 23s, under 20s, young boys that need a little bit of an assistance, or a bit of guidance, or a bit of mentoring, however you want to describe it, to become better players, and to have a little bit of a better career in the game, because
exactly, like this has been my point, because see what's happening now with England is there've been so many coaches coming in and out. They just take charge of the senior team, and England always used to go out in the round of 16s or the quarterfinals. But Gareth Southgate, the best thing with him was he was there with the players through their ranks, right? So now in the senior team, he has those players who he understands, who he helped them build their game, are playing for the senior team, and he is the head of the senior team. So now in Nepal, looking at Nepal's footballing condition as a sports journalist, or maybe as a commentator, what I always see is players coming to the team from maybe the A, B, C divisions, players that do not they have their natural game style of play, right? They're not being taught in an academy. It's all many of the players are self-taught players.
Yeah.
So I think you are someone who needs to be given maybe 5, 8 or 10 years plan. Okay, Ian, you have this plan. You start with the 15s, and then you progress, and finally at the down 7, 8, 10 years, you will take care of the senior team. And by that time, the players, the quality of players you will get to play for the senior team, right? Now we're talking. You don't need to start coming in, build. What's happening with Nepal is we get a new coach, then the coach gets finds certain players from the league or NSL, and the team is built. But I think we're missing the hierarchy here. We're missing the youth ranks. We're missing the grassroots. And I think our association needs to plan with someone like you. If I was the head of the organization, giving you the coaching position of Nepal right now, or maybe after 2 years, maybe after this coaches our Vincenzo's tenure, for me it would be a stupidity. For if I was there for you, I would bring this coach as a certain year's plan.
Yeah, well, look, I think that your thought patterns are fairly good and positive for football. I think that there's got to be a target. So when's the next World Cup?
2026.
Okay, so I reckon that by 2030,
Mm.
right? That's the one that you really need to be ready for.
Absolutely.
So you've got to have a program put together where it's these kids now would be under 16, right? So you've got to get yourself an under 16 training camps regular. You've got to play in the elite competitions in AFC. You've got to try and get the best coaching staff. You've got to try and get the best facilities. You've got to try and get everything in preparation for 2030. So in that age group, there'll be men then. There'll be mature men, and they should have had experiences. Could we get them attachments to go to other countries overseas, whether it be, you could even use Australia as an example because it's nice and close. You could put players into the UK, and I'm using English speaking countries because if you go to Germany, it's a totally different language. It's hard. If you go to France, it's totally different. They're more used to being in English speaking countries. So if you could do attachments to these type of things, I think that would be like really, really positive. Would there be an injection of funding needed to do that? Well, possibly yes, but I believe that you've got enough funding coming in now. Whether it's used in the correct manner or not is another question. I think that, like my boss, for instance, right, KG, he's like football mad. Like, I mean, he's like so much behind football.
He loves football.
He's but you need to get people like him to invest in the future, and the return of investment for these type of people is successful in regards to like teams playing in World Cup qualification or playing in World Cup finals even.
True.
So I mean, if you could get these type of people in there, I mean, we've got some great sponsors like 361, for instance. Like he's another mad football person. He like really enjoys it, and he's got like young children, young family that enjoy football. I mean, we've got all these type of people that are around us in Lalitpur. They want to try and help football. There are other people out there, but instead of like hiding behind a rock, come out and actually be noticed and actually have a voice and try and help football, because it can't keep on going the way it is. You need positive input from these people, and big businessmen. You need the big businessmen to support these projects.
Private sectors.
Yeah, and that's why the NSL is so successful, because it's totally different. It's a business model, and it's all about trying to raise the profile of the game. I mean, it's no different. It's business 9 to 5 during the day. Football's just exactly the same, but the hours are just slightly different, played on Saturdays or Sundays sometimes.
So, given those kind of plans, would you be here?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, people need to speak to me about what they really want. I mean, I can't go and say, "Oh, you should be doing this or you should be doing that." It's the for people that need to come and speak to me and say, "Look, would you be interested in doing something for us in a under 23 phase or a under 19 phase or under 20, whatever they're really wanting?" I'm sure that just like Nishal, I'm sure they could possibly twist my arm and get me to say yes, because again, I enjoy the greatest thing I enjoy about football is going and putting on a training session. The greatest thing I enjoyed about football was training. So it's just a different role. You're a coach now, and you like to put on training sessions that the players enjoy and you enjoy. It's exactly the same. You're just the other side of the white line. Yeah, that's how I'd possibly describe it. And I'm sure that we could organise something if they really want to do something with me.
I would love to see you in that role. And finally, at the closing, I have very important question for you. You have to be very honest with this. In the final, which color of coat you thought I would wear?
Well, I was hoping it wasn't going to be the rainbow.
There was a pink, there was a orange.
We saw you in orange and we saw you in pink, and you were quite vibrant. I thought you'd maybe pop up with a lemon one. I thought you'd maybe come with a lemon. I thought to myself, he'll maybe come with lemon. And
there was one actually. Next time, definitely.
You've got a lemon one?
Yeah.
Well, look.
The suiting, it's like Shrestha Tailoring who provides me with the suits. So there was one that I actually wear. I'll show you after the shoot as well.
Bespoke, right? They sponsored
our
Lalitpur,
right? Yeah,
right. The lovely.
That's nice.
Lovely jackets. Yeah. But my one originally that came was a little bit tight, and I says to Vivek, I says to him, I says, look, I says, it's a little bit tight. He says, don't worry, coach. He says, leave it in reception. He says, and I will get it back to you within 24 hours. Yeah. And then, like, Bespoke, I mean, the outfitters are, I mean, I went there and got fitted and everything. How they got it slightly wrong or whatever, it was okay. I could wear it in that. He says, I will get it perfect for you. So tomorrow, leave it at reception. So I left it at reception. He says, you'll get it back within 24 hours. Well, there was a game, so we had, lo and behold, of all the things in Nepal, it was back within 24 hours because there's a lot of things I've been told that will be ready tomorrow, and it's never ever happened. It's like Nepal time. They take their own time, but their service was it was like fantastic. Sure. And the gear. Funny story. We've got these like jackets and everything, lovely jackets as you've seen. Maybe not as vibrant as yours, but we've scored a goal, and the next thing, Beaver's on his back on the ground.
Yeah. Beaver.
I'm saying to myself, I've gone up to Beaver. I says, Beaver, what are you doing? He says, coach, and he's got tears coming out of his eyes, Beaver. He says, coach, I says, get up or you'll have to dry clean your jacket. It says, get up. And then it was quite a moment, that, because he's lying there and his eyes are, he's looked up and he's got tears coming out of his eyes like down. I says, come on, you got to get up.
Yeah, there was this clip, I saw that.
Yeah, so that was it. I mean, there's lots of memorable moments. I remember we scored the very first goal we scored.
Onanta or Hengen?
It was Hengen who scored it. The very first goal we scored. And we're there. And then the next thing, I've got Beaver jumped on my head. I've got the physio jumping up, and because the physio, like he's quite a man, the physio. He's quite a big fella. You know, he can pack a handful of rice in, by the way, at a mealtime. And I've gone like, I thought, oh no, what's happened? Because he's landed, and I thought I'd broken my neck at one stage, and that was it. That was quite a memorable moment. Just the first goal that was scored, and then I mean there was so many different emotions in regards to getting a second yellow card and getting sent off him. I was a bit confused about that. I was another different kind of emotion. And then as getting to the final, scoring the Kushal scoring that crucial goal, playing with 10 men for, I think he got sent off in the 30th minute or something like that.
It was at the dying minutes.
No, when Nicol got sent off, he got sent off and we went down to 10 men. against
Nigel
Poker.
got sent off in the first half.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd been about after 30 minutes. And then
Yeah, after 39, 37, 39, somewhere around there.
yeah, so we've gone on into extra time and everything. And then we've scored the winning goal. The young lad who scored the goal, and then we've gone on and won. That was quite emotional because we'd done it the hard way, gone from like fourth, and then gone into the final. So that was quite an emotional time. And then the lackey, for instance, him, I got whiplash from a lackey. He's got that mop of hair and he's gone like that. I got all this hair in my face and everything. So it was quite a roller coaster, and it was quite emotional. And I would have thought that if you'd done a documentary on what we'd actually done, you would have been quite amazed because our management were like exceptional in regards to I mean, I wanted the boys to go to meals all at the same time. I wanted them to wear the shirts, everybody to be the same, everybody to wear tracksuits, everybody to be professional all the time, and they followed it. They followed what I actually asked for, and I mean, foam rollers. Everybody had a foam roller. Everybody had a mat so they could activate properly. I mean, there was nothing left really. I mean, we'd done the majority of professional things, like recording of like RPEs after every training session. What they thought the training session was in regards to the element of difficulty, game days. I mean, come at the end, I mean, I was like 9s and 10s on there on game day, whereas in the middle and that I was like 7s, 6s, in regards to like the element of, because I wanted to make sure that we knew exactly how the players were feeling, so it was an honesty type system. Hydration, the boys were given vitamins, they were given all the regeneration supplements. Yeah, so they got that. So yeah, that was another sponsor that put that in there. Yeah, T10. I mean, the compression garments. That was something that was important. I mean, the hotel, United Business Hotel. Oops, it was like good because it had like this, like the gym there, the swimming pool,
all facilities there. You don't have to go here and there.
And then I mean, the good thing about Gandruk, the restaurant, it had like European food, so like your boys could get your pastas, and then your local boys could get your Nepalese food.
Did you try dal bhat tarkari?
What one's that one?
Our Nepali food, dal bhat tarkari.
I've tried the dada rice with the vegetables and all that kind of thing, and then you put the lentil in it. I've had that a couple of times, and yeah, I've had.
Do you like it?
Yeah, well, Pepe pizza and that thing, I'll maybe go for the Pepe pizza.
Okay.
It's not one of my things, but yeah, I mean, everything that we've had by the management and everything was like excellent. I mean, it couldn't have been more. Like the script was tough. It was like a Shakespeare type one to start with, and then at the end, everything just came into place, and we were successful by winning the.
So I think we're now coming to the end. So what does winning Nepal Super League means to you? If someone comes and asks you this question, what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, I keep mentioning Nishal because him and I, we have because it was him that convinced me to come here. He says, well, coach, he says, you've came here and you've done what you're supposed to do. I says, what was I supposed to do? He says, well, you won the NSL. He says, there's only one coach that can win the NSL. And he says, and that's you. And he says, and there's only one team, and that's our team, Lalitpur. And I went, our team? He says, yeah. He says, our team. He says, because we were the best team. He says, and nobody can ever take it away from us. And I says, well, that's correct. I says, nobody can ever take it away from us. I says, I do honestly believe that we played the best football, and we worked against a lot of elements because there was a lot of people didn't want us to win it because, yeah, that's what football's like. And yeah, that's the beast there. It's a heavy little number, that one. Yeah, I wouldn't like to be lifting it above my head and dropping it on my nose, that's for sure.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
I lifted it. It's really heavy. But did a good job with the trophy. This reflects Nepal. So yes, Nepal Super League is there finally. It has arrived.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do next year if they replicate that trophy. And yeah, but I'd like to see a trophy that it's got a place somewhere that all the names can go on it, and it's
they have places down there, so maybe.
Yeah, but I'm talking about one that's kept in some NSL. Yeah, and it's like, I think
they give other the winners the replica and they keep the original to themselves. They just let them lift it and put it there.
That would be quite nice, and that would mean that Kathmandu would have been the inaugural winners. Lalitpur in season 2, and then season 3. Oh, look, I'd like to think there'd be a lot more clubs involved in it next year.
True.
And then you could maybe do 3 centres. You could maybe do Kathmandu, Pokhara, and I don't know where else. But that would be nice if you could expand it. And
they are planning. So even they're trying to take it. The league will only not happen in Kathmandu, but it'll happen in maybe Biratnagar, maybe Pokhara. Pokhara has a wonderful ground. Maybe there, maybe somewhere, because the grounds are all there. It's all about the team. Now, if they are okay with it, spending an extra bit of amount of money to travel. That's the best part. And it will be difficult for us broadcasters not to forget that. Running around, I don't know how it's going to be possible every day, different games.
Well, I mean, in Australia, with the Fox, it used to be.
Fox Sports.
Yeah, that's now finished, I think, Fox. They used to have to send the truck from the East Coast to the West Coast. And it used to take days to come across the Nullarbor. And that was one of the logistical problems that they had with the cameras, because there was not cameras in Western Australia. And they all had to come from the Eastern Seaboard. So I don't know how you would go with trucks and everything with your cameras, because the roads here are...
It's all flights.
Yeah, well, I don't know how you would go with the freight and that, because it would be fairly expensive, I would imagine.
Good tie up with the airlines. It's all about management. For me, as a management student, management teacher, I say it's all about management. But anyways, let's end it on a high note. Thank you so much, Coach, for coming to my podcast, because I've been planning this for a very long time. I think the first time we met was during Lalitpur jersey launch. That was when I got your philosophy, and the patience I had, I felt like, okay, he's going to reach somewhere. And then I'm going to call him. And that has been really fruitful. You came along with the trophy.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you and your team and the whole management of Lalitpur. And I think you have some kind of gift to give us as well.
Oh, no.
Pass your
No.
This is your logo. Oh, nice.
Look at this little beauty.
Okay.
Latte. So that's a latte. Right, I never knew what the latte was before I came here. I definitely know what the latte is now. Yeah, so that's our gift to you, and
colors of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, colors of the game, and I'd just like to thank you personally for inviting us here and asking us lots of personal questions. And believe me, if I didn't want to answer it, I wouldn't have answered them.
It was all your choice.
Yeah,
I would have edited it if you said, like, you don't put this part, so no problem there.
But anyway, thank you very much. And I'd just like to thank all the supporters and sponsors that have been involved, not just with Lalitpur, but with every club that's participated in the NSL, because football's to be enjoyed. And without supporters, without their input and without the noise and roar at the games, it's not the same. It's not the same at all. And let's hope that NSL 3 is a better model.
Bigger.
Yeah, it'll struggle to be better.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think the TV coverage and everything was incredible. I think it was like very good. I think the supporter turnout on the final day was super. I think we'd find it hard to replicate that again. Just the buzz in regards to like thousands of people being locked outside. But yet again, thank you very much, Nepal, for having me. And I'll go quite gracefully, humbly, and I never got a medal. They missed me out on my medal.
Really?
Yeah, they missed me out on my medal.
Just that you need to.
So Beaver and I missed out on a medal. So we've got to get that. So I'll have to get my medal before I depart the country.
Okay. I'll also personally remind Shrey and Sky today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you very much. And we'll catch up again in the not too distant future. Thank you.